Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're going to be talking with Rakesh, who is somebody who reached out to me through TikTok, and he owns 37 rental properties as a W-2 employee. So him and his wife both worked W-2 jobs for a number of years. They've been able to consistently buy real estate, and just over time, they've been able to collect about 37 rental properties. They are financially free, but he still works because he likes what he does. And so this is kind of like a very standard way that I see a lot of W-2 employees build their rental portfolio and build their net worth. It's just something that you don't really hear about because the only thing you hear about on YouTube is people who are full-time real estate investors talking about how you should flip homes, wholesale homes, start this business, do this. Well, Rakesh is one of the most common types of real estate investors who just work at their W-2 job and buy real estate consistently year after year. In this video, we're going to talk about some of the strategies that he's employed to actually build out his 37 unit rental portfolio and how he's been able to reach financial freedom using that portfolio. We're going to talk about a concept called bonus depreciation, which is, if you guys know me, one of my favorite real estate investing terms, and why his wife became a real estate professional. With bonus depreciation and real estate professional status, my wife and I were actually able to save over $80,000 in federal income tax last year. And so this is why it's important to understand, especially if you are a W-2 employee. So if you guys are interested, stick around and I'll see you in the video. All right, welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is Rakesh. Rakesh, interesting story. He actually contacted me through TikTok, but unlike most of the other people who contacted me through TikTok to ask me about stuff, Rakesh actually contacted me on TikTok to like teach me stuff or like show me stuff. And so TikTok's been a really good way for me to meet other people, high net worth individuals who are also investing in real estate. He is a W-2 employee just like myself. And so I think we kind of have a very similar strategy in terms of building our wealth in real estate. And so one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you on this YouTube channel is because a lot of the people giving it real estate investing advice out there are full-time real estate investors. And so a lot of their strategies and their approaches don't really fit someone who's working a full-time W-2 job. Having a W-2 job is pretty stressful and demanding. So maybe you can just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and kind of your real estate journey along with your W-2 journey and how it kind of mixes in with your real estate journey and how you kind of balance both and kind of what's been your experience investing in real estate alongside being a W-2 employee for like, I don't know, whenever you started. I don't even know when you started, but yeah, take us all the way back.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mike, and thanks for inviting me to this. Love your content and the transparency and just how real you are with things. So awesome to be here. So yeah, I've been a W-2 employee for 23 years at the same job. Kind of worked my way up through the corporate ladder and make a good amount of money as a W-2 employee. I started investing in real estate in 2008, 2009, when no one was really buying any property. Kind of did it as a favor to my sister, believe it or not. She was in dental school and she was renting a small apartment, $1,200. I went to go visit her one day and I was like, oh, this is a really small apartment. Like, did you want to move somewhere else like that? Do you have more space and things? And I walked around the campus and I found some homes that were for sale for like $200 something thousand. Back then, entire streets were for sale, right? And so I was like, hey, I'm going to buy this property. Don't even worry about paying me rent. Just live there nicely, comfortably, do good in school, have a good environment for you to be successful. And so bought this place for like $220 in Arizona, got like a super low rate. I think it was like 3.75, did a 30-year mortgage on it. And yeah, just let her live there until she was done school. And then so she finished school, like I started asking my family, like, what should I do with this? And everybody was like, dump it. Don't be a landlord. You're going to get people putting concrete down your plumbing. You're going to have people mess up the drywall and this and that. And I went against the grain and I was like, let me try renting this thing and just see what happens. My mortgage payment was like, I don't know, $800, I think. And I contacted a local property management company and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about renting this. Like, what can you get me? And they're like, oh, we could probably get you about $1,600 a month. And to me, I mean, that was great, man. I was like, oh, wow, $800 in cash. And after I was paying the property management fee, like it was like $70 a month or something. And I was like, all right, that's cool. It rented within a couple weeks. And I was like, wow, is that, and it wasn't really difficult. But then I was like, man, this is just like good income. Let me buy another one. So there was, at the time, it was still 2010, and so things were still not so good. And I bought another one down the street for like 330 on a golf course. And again, the same thing, super low rate. It was like 3.5. Did a 30-year payment on that was like, I don't know, 1,100, 1,200 bucks. And then went ahead and rented that for like 2,100
And
bucks. So
where were these properties located?
So these are all in Arizona, and so I started building this sort of real estate empire in an empire. It's not really an empire, but the portfolio in Arizona, just because things were cheap back then, cheap, pretty managed. I just kind of replicated that process out there. But pretty much, I bought the second one, and I was like, wow, this is real easy. Let me buy another one. So over the course of like 7 years, I bought about 25-ish properties in that Arizona market, buying 2 or 3, 4 a year sometimes.
Wow.
And it got to the point where like things were really good, but then things got more expensive. I was like, all right, I need to do something else. And so I started looking at other states. COVID hit in 2020. I was like, where else can I go? I was looking for low property tax states. I was looking for high rental states and relative. So I found Hawaii. Out of all the places, believe it or not, I found Hawaii, and I started buying property out there during COVID when everything was shut down because people couldn't get to the islands and whatever have you. So I started buying properties out there, and now I have about 9 doors out there, which are high cash flow properties. And then I got into Airbnb also when everybody else was getting into Airbnb. So I have one Airbnb in Tennessee on the Smoky Mountains, which is doing okay, not as good as last year, but still not bad. So overall, I got about 37 doors, and things are sort of like on autopilot, if you want to call it that. I got a couple renovations happening right now, so those are kind of, I'm working through that. But short term, kind of my overall strategy right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I feel like you also a little undercutted yourself there because you mentioned something about building a beach house that you didn't even mention. So you have a little bit more going on. I think that's the construction piece that you're talking about.
That one actually, so I kind of bit off more than I can chew on that one. I picked up a nice property in Panama City Beach, Florida last September for like 530-ish. Had full intentions of essentially demolishing the place and building a 5-story beach house that was going to be an Airbnb that probably would gross 300, 350 based off of what comps were. Hired an architect, contractor, everything was going well, but I couldn't get team around my vision and my goal. And this was the biggest project that I've ever taken on. I've done full guts before, but I've never really done like full demo, working with the county, in a state that I've never even really invested in before. Never even seen this house before. So anyways, I tried it for 6 months, got pretty close with the plans being done, but just kind of hit a dead end. And, I was just like, do I keep sinking money into this, or do I kind of cut my losses and look at another investment? And I think that's important for a lot of folks to understand, especially new investors if the numbers don't make sense, better investments elsewhere. It's okay to cut your losses, and look at something else, right? And so this situation,
I guess when you have 37 doors, it's okay, but for the rest of us, it's not. I only have 2 properties right now, so I guess for someone like me, it'd be much harder to let go of something like that, right?
Yeah,
but
it was a tough decision, but long story short, I actually put it on the market in the summer, like June, July of this year. We actually sold it for 140,000 profit. So I ended up flipping it, didn't do anything besides put a set of plans together, which cost me like $5,000. So yeah, ended up making probably, roughly like 130,000 on it. Got lucky, I would say, but that's kind of past other types of fees, not so much short-term rental, but yeah. So that I kind of moved on from that one. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to dive a little bit into like
because you compressed 20 years worth of investing into, just 3 minutes there, right? And so I think as a W-2 employee, you're, at least for the first 20 years when you were buying those properties in Arizona every year, like you said, I'm buying 2, 3 properties every single year, that in itself is pretty insane. But when you think about the fact that each home you're buying is adding to your income, which then makes it easier to go buy the next one because you're essentially starting to snowball at the top of the mountain, right? And the further down you roll, the faster that thing's gonna kind of start going, right? And so maybe I think for the first few properties, that's probably just all your cash. But then when those properties are putting $800 a month into your pocket each, it only takes you it might take you 1 year where you're buying one property every year. But then eventually when you get to like that 3, 4 properties, then, you're not buying one home a year. Now you're buying 2 homes a year. And then that growth just compounds and compounds. And so you get to a point where you can buy 3, 4 homes a year, and it's just exponential growth. And so I think generally speaking, as a W-2 employee, that's kind of just been my strategy, is just like the first few years are going to be slower. But if you can get to a point where you own like 3, 4, 5 homes at cash flow, and rents go up over time as well. So that's just feeding to the fire more. So I just think that strategy is definitely a strategy that's not like get rich quick, but it's definitely long-term wealth in that sense, right? And then not only that, but your tenants are paying down your loan over time. So that's absolutely insane. So I wanted to ask you about like scaling this property. Like I said, right, a lot of the money that you use to buy these homes, I'm assuming, is not just from your W-2. A lot of it is your, the income that you're pulling in from these rental properties that you're putting back into these rental properties. So like if you said like 37 like doors right now, I want to know like how much of that money actually came from your W-2, and then how much of that money that you've deployed so far has come from like equity within the other rental properties that you've owned, or like the rental income. Like I know you don't have like the exact numbers, but like just based on feel, like, because a lot of people, especially because you bought in 2008, you've probably seen ginormous appreciation. You probably could have 1031 one home into buying 3, right? And so, but you've only bought that one first home with your own W-2 money. So like, I'm curious to see how much you think you've actually used of your own W-2 salary to go buy. Like maybe you only bought like 6 homes, right? Of using your own W-2 money, and the rest, right, of those 30 are just a result of these 6 homes that you bought with your own W-2 that have appreciated, and you've essentially used the equity to go buy these properties. So I want to talk a little bit more about that. Like how much of your portfolio do you think kind of comes from the equity and comes from your W-2, would you say?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say probably the first 5 properties I bought, I was sinking my own money into them as far as down payment is concerned, as far as reno is concerned. I was feeding a lot of money into them. But I was doing BRRRR strategy way before even BRRRR was even a thing, right? Before even the term was even coined, I was doing BRRRR. That's what's really led me to being able to multiply at this level, is that I was essentially forcing this appreciation by buying these worthless boxes and creating the value that the banks obviously saw. They cashed me out plus at like a 3% rate. And so I was just recycling that money and just continuing to buy property. That money that the bank was essentially replenishing my funds and some, and I would go and buy another property with that money. So
gotcha.
And now the cash flow, obviously. So I'm not really using my own money anymore, but I did in the early stages. And the money came from selling stock. I've been with my company a long time. And so I was doing certain things where I needed cash to buy these real estate investments. But, so that's kind of how it started. It was like probably the first 5 of them I needed probably to do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think people don't really understand that like exponential compounding effect, that once you get 5 and those are bringing in income, it just makes it so much easier to buy the next one. And then that makes it even easier to buy the next one. So, and then at the same time, you're building equity, and you can use, you can sell one home, 1031 exchange it, and exchange it for 2 homes, so it's a really easy way to grow your wealth once you kind of have that ball rolling. But I feel like definitely the first 5 are definitely the hardest ones. And so that's kind of where I am at right now. I think one of the things I want to talk about is like time management, because a big part of why most W-2 employees don't invest in real estate is because they don't want to do the work. You talked about buying BRRRRs, which is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. It's a way that you can basically buy a property for a lower value, add some value to it by renovating it, and then get a new loan for it so that you can get back a majority of the money that you spent to acquire it. And so in that way, you can recycle your money, which is probably the fastest way to scale, just because you're reusing money instead of sinking money into that deal and like leaving it there forever, right? So Burr is a great strategy, but like Burr requires a lot of time and renovations and stuff like that. So you live in California, you're buying in Arizona, right? How are you spending your time? Like, how much time are you sinking into these 5 homes, right? Like each home you acquire?
To be honest with you, it took me probably 3 different teams in Arizona before I finally found the group that was able to essentially take my playbook and repeat that over and over and over again, right? So I was spending a lot of time in the beginning trying to find my own contractors and my own people and all that. And I had to go, I said, 3 groups before I finally found the group that knew my vision, that knew exactly what I would want to do when a new project was given to them, right? So I think that's the thing, the key to success is like you have to have the people there to do the work.
And is the main
for you.
player there just a general contractor, or what? Who are these people that you're talking about? Is it a contractor, or is it like who's like the main person that you're looking for?
Yeah, it's not even that. I mean, because I'm doing projects right now in Hawaii, and I'm doing owner builder, like I'm the GC, and I'm 3,000 miles away, right? You have to have your own team. So sometimes you have to act like a contractor, but it's just having the plumber, the drywaller, the framer, the electrician, and then you kind of create the team. And so like I was able to do these discount because I never really hired a general contractor that's going to charge time and materials plus 20%. Right. So like I was willing to do the work, but like I was the brains behind making sure that everybody was doing what they needed to do.
So you definitely took more of the active approach in doing this.
Yeah, I enjoy doing it. Like that's a passion of mine to actually be involved. And even my property management company that I have, like some people hire these management companies and they're totally hands off with like everything. And so my relationship with my property manager is very different in the sense it's like I want to know everything that's going on, and even like maintenance requests come to me, go out and fix it, or we'll go out and do a roof or an AC or whatever. I don't have them do anything, right? Because it's like I built a team that oversees these 25 doors that I have in Arizona. And so it's like I have them on payroll, and it's like go and handle this. So that's the approach I took. That approach does have some scars, obviously, right? But I think in the long term, I'm happy with how I set that up.
Yeah. Basically, you have to make a bunch of phone calls to find the right people. You are on the phone. Because I was trying to find a fencer for someone who could redo the fence at my rental property. I had to call like 5 different people. And you realize how bad their businesses are set up, because most of them won't even answer the phone call. And if they just answered the phone call, they could have got my business.
The key, Michael, is like keeping the people that you have super happy and giving them enough work where they don't need to go look for another job. Pay them really well, take care of them. A lot of these people, believe it or not, they're very emotional. They like to be stroked. They like to be told they're doing a good job. And even though they're these tough, contractors, like you have to have a little bit of that too. And so I pay my people really well. I treat them like human beings, and I give them enough work where they never have to pick up the phone or answer anybody else's phone call, because they know that Rakesh is taking care of them. Yeah. And it's like they will answer my call because they know that I'm the one that's paying them.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a big part of it, right? It's like, especially if you're out of state, you're definitely going to have a good team. So it does take a lot of phone calls, but I think once you get to the stage that you're at where you have those people, then it's a lot easier for sure. I want to talk about bonus depreciation, because bonus depreciation, most of the people who join or subscribe to this channel probably subscribe because of bonus depreciation in some sort. If you don't know what bonus depreciation is, you probably haven't watched like any of my YouTube videos or TikTok videos, because like half of them are about bonus depreciation, because it's such a big part of my strategy. And apparently it is a big part of your strategy as well. Can you tell me a little bit about how you're using bonus depreciation? And then you also mentioned that your wife became a real estate professional 2 years ago. I don't know if she quit her job to become a real estate professional, but maybe you can talk about the transition, why you guys did that, and then how you're using bonus depreciation today.
One of the key parts of my strategy since 2008, when I was buying my first property, is both of us needed to work, right? And we worked 50, 60 hours a week for several years, right? I would buy property on my name. I would max out as much as I could. And then I started buying properties on her name. And she kept working 40, 50 hours a week, picking up overtime, everything we needed to do, right? To just accumulate as much leverage as possible and just keep buying as much as we could, right? My wife would always ask me, all right, when can I cut down to part-time? When can I lower my hours? And I was like, just keep working. There'll be a day when I will tell you, you don't have to work anymore. But for now, I need you to keep working. So that day came about 2 years ago, where I said, you know what, we're financially free. Like neither of us have to work anymore. But if you go down to, and you don't have to work, I gave her the option. I said, you don't need to work anymore. He goes, well, it's not that I don't want to work anymore. I just want to be home more. And I said, all right, what do you want to do? She goes, well, can I work like 1 day a week or 2 days a week? I said, yeah, sure. So she went down to 1 day a week, part-time. And that was the trigger where now she doesn't have a main job, right? She has 8 hours a week of this W-2, and the rest of her time, we can kind of code her as a real estate professional because the rules say that you have to do that job more than any other job, right? And so there's definitely more than 8 hours a week that real estate stuff. I would say we're doing real estate stuff like 40, 50 hours a week, probably.
Yeah. And
right?
she could probably get those 750 hours just by managing your rental portfolio right now, right? And so that's amazing.
Yeah. That's kind of how we put her to part-time, and we essentially coded her as a realtor 2 years ago. And that changed the trajectory of all the depreciation that we were not capturing before because it was passive is now active, and essentially taking those losses and throwing it against my W-2 and her part-time W-2.
Yeah.
And that's the most magical thing in the world is not having to pay, any federal, almost zero federal income tax.
Yeah, we got to stop there and pause for a second because I need to explain for anyone who is watching now who had no idea what he just said. Quick primer on real estate professional status. Okay, if you go to the IRS website and actually look up real estate professional status, essentially what real estate professional status allows you to do is that when you buy real estate, you can basically claim a huge deduction in that business called bonus depreciation. Because of that huge deduction that you can claim only for the first year that you own that rental property, you might be able to generate an actual loss on your Schedule E, which is where you report your profit and loss basically for that one rental property. So we bought a rental property last year that generated a $200,000 loss, meaning I had $200,000 more deductions than income. 90% of my deductions was because of bonus depreciation. So that's what drove down my loss on my rental property. Now that loss is what we consider a passive loss. Rakesh was mentioning passive versus active. Well, the problem with passive losses is that passive losses can only offset other forms of passive income. So if you have rental income, let's say you have an Airbnb that profits like $50,000 after all expenses, that's passive income. So you could potentially use the $50,000 of passive losses from this one rental property to offset the passive income from this short-term rental that you also own. And you would pay no taxes or income tax on that $50,000 of short-term rental income. But for Rakesh, he has active income from his W-2 job where he's paying, a lot of money on federal income tax. So that's active income. And if you want to be able to use passive losses from your real estate business to offset or lower your taxable income from your W-2 job, you need real estate professional status. So a lot of the people who do consultations with me, a lot of them are couples where one is a high income earner, like making like doctor's salary, $500,000, and the other person's like a stay-at-home. But the stay-at-home person, if you're going to stay at home, why not just become real estate professional? So that now that person who's making $500,000 can go buy real estate, generate a $200,000 loss, and then reduce your taxable income from 500 down to 300. And that would be a tax savings of, 60, 70, somewhere in the ballpark of that number of taxes. And then you can go use those tax savings to go buy more real estate, which then is going to generate more passive losses and all that kind of stuff. So this is why real estate professional status is so like overpowered, OP, like it's crazy. And so the fact that you've kind of positioned yourself to for your wife to be a real estate professional is a very intentional and it's a very strategic move. It's not just like, oh, I like real estate, I'm going to do it. No, it's like a lot of it is because of the tax benefits that you can claim because of real estate professional status. So if you don't know what it is, go to the IRS website, look it up. It's super powerful. And then it's the same reason why my wife is a real estate professional and I am a W2 income earner. And so for you guys, your threshold was like, look, we're financially free. That's when you can be a real estate professional. For me, in order to be a real estate professional, you need to work 750 hours, right? If we buy enough real estate to the point where you can manage this real estate yourself and spend 750 hours managing this real estate and then get real estate professional status, that's when you can quit your job. Because that means that, you know, she can quit her job and just manage our rental properties and claim real estate professional status from managing our rental properties. But who knows? That might be like when we have 15 properties, because you're not really going to spend 750 hours when you only have 3 properties, right? You're going to need at least like maybe 10 or 12 or 13 or so. So that's kind of like what I told my wife is like, look, when we get to 12, 13, you can manage our rental properties and you can claim real estate professional status just from managing those rental properties. I'll stay at my job and then we can use your real estate professional status along with the losses from our real estate to keep offsetting my W2 income. So that's kind of our strategy right now. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal strategy. And the depreciation aspect is, I don't think a lot of people fully understand how the IRS has given all of us a gift with the word depreciation, right? You have an asset that technically appreciates over time, but in the eyes of the IRS, it's like, no, it has a useful life of only 27 and a half years. So for high earners, the strategy that you and I just shared is perfect.
Especially high income earners, right? When one person is staying home, right? Because then they can stay with the kids too, right? So it's a big benefit.
Yeah, I agree.
One thing that you mentioned before when we were on a phone call before was that you got conventional financing for like a lot of properties. And so most people would say, oh, well, you can only get like 3 properties before your DTI maxes out. But then you did mention something earlier that I thought you kind of skipped by, but then is really important is you said, I bought as many properties under my name as I possibly could, but then I also bought as many properties under my wife's name. Why not combine? Why didn't you buy it under both of your names? Like, why weren't you both joint owners?
I guess like I did make a mistake when we first bought our primary home here. We put both of our names on it, like every husband and wife does. But I quickly started to realize that the debt gets tied to both of your names, right? As soon as the opportunity came where I could refinance, which was in the peak of COVID when the rates were like almost zero, and I put it only on my name, took her off, and gave her essentially a clean slate. But buying property individually is the best thing when you have 2 earners, because only one of you gets hit with the debt. It's important to not even put her on the deed, because if you put her on the deed, even though she's not on the no, she gets hit with the taxes and all that other stuff too. So keep them totally off. You buy your own, she buys her own, or he buys his own, and keep them separate. That way, the Fannie Federal guidelines are like 10 properties each. You can technically get
so essentially
20.
You can get 20. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
20 conventional loans, and if you factor in multifamilies and all that stuff in there, I mean, you could have several, even hundreds of doors, depending on how you can kind of relate those that you have.
Yeah. I mean, you can buy a 4-plex with a conventional. So effectively, you have 10 conventional loans and all of them are 4-plexes. That's 40 doors. That's well enough. Yeah. That's more than enough for you to go financially free.
Yeah.
So that's something that you really need to consider.
And then, on the DTI aspect as well, I was doing 30-year mortgages. And so, keeping the payments low as well to help with that, the whole, debt to income as well. And I was doing a lot of that stuff too. So,
I mean, I think your story is just like, to be honest, it's a very typical W2/real estate investor story. You're like the most common type of real estate investors, like the full-time real estate investors on YouTube talking about wholesaling, finding deals, fixing up stuff full-time. That's like, honestly, that's a smaller percentage of like real estate investors. Like the most common ones are the ones that you don't find on YouTube, who aren't full-time YouTubers, but are just full-time W2 employees like me or you, who just buy properties every year consistently, safely, slowly. And then over time, these properties are just increasing. Your debt is being paid down by your tenants, and you just grow long-term wealth that way. So that's kind of the message that I'm trying to preach with this YouTube channel, is that it's not all about going into real estate full-time, quitting your high $300,000 paying job to go into wholesaling, which is what everyone else, you don't need to be in real estate full time to make money as a real estate investor,
Correct.
So that's kind of the message that I'm trying to, share, especially with a lot of my colleagues and stuff like that. So, and you're the prime example. And that's why I wanted you to kind of share your story on this YouTube video.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely good. And this whole depreciation and all of that, this W-2 that you're paying 37-40% tax on is, essentially down to 12%, 10%. I mean, it's like, more money in your pocket, and again, more money for people to go out and buy more properties and continue building. So
I think, again, as you become higher income, you grow, you get up in that higher tax bracket, taxes become a bigger reason why you buy real estate. Like, to be honest, for me, like, it's almost like 50-50. Like, I'm buying real estate 50% for the tax benefits and 50% because of everything else. Last year, I saved $80,000 in taxes, right? So I can redeploy $80,000. So if I didn't buy real estate last year and use bonus depreciation, I would have $80,000 less of purchasing power this year. So if you're doing that year after year after year, saving $80,000 every single year, your wealth is just growing so much exponentially faster than somebody who's not utilizing this strategy, right? And then one thing I wanted to mention is that even after year one, after you claim this bonus depreciation, you still have depreciation deductions that you can claim from years 2 to 26.5. So for you, you have 37 doors, you have a good amount of rental income on this side, but on the deduction side, you still have a good amount of deductions. So you are pretty much paying almost no taxes on any of your rental income for all 37 doors still. I don't know if your deductions completely negate out all your rental income right now, but it's probably a good 80% at least, like, is completely, I have no idea, but like, I imagine it's a majority is at least being deducted, right?
I'm having to do about 2 cost segregations per year in order to negate all of the and so my projects are $1 million plus projects, a couple of those a year at least. It took, and taking those cost seg to eliminate all the income that I have. I have to buy.
You essentially pay no taxes. You pay no income tax on any of the rental income that you collect, essentially.
Yeah. The only tax I really pay is the California state income tax. Unfortunately, they don't recognize depreciation, so that's the only downside to it. But I don't pay any taxes on my rental income or my W-2. Yeah.
That's super awesome. Maybe we can kind of transition out a little bit. So I kind of wanted to leave the viewers with some good resources that you've kind of found valuable. So one of the main questions I wanted to ask was, what are your top resources for learning about this stuff? Like, where did you learn this stuff? But just like, who have you learned from the most? And like,
I'll be honest with you, I did a lot of DIY stuff back in 08, 09, because there wasn't YouTube channels and there wasn't TikTok, and I'm not dating myself, but like, honestly, there wasn't a lot of information available like it is now, right? So a lot of it was just learning from others, asking questions, surrounding yourself with people that were doing similar things and kind of learning from them, right? So that's how I started, like, early on. Nobody in my family really was very helpful to me either, because nobody else is doing what I'm doing. So,
Same.
There's nobody I could reach out to. Like I said, there's a lot of people on TikTok nowadays that like to share, what they're doing, but they're not as transparent, they're not as clear. So I look to you as someone that I respect and has really good advice. I like Michael Alfante from a short-term rental perspective. If you're interested in that, and I know you've done videos around the short-term rental loophole. If you don't have rep status, he's a great guy to follow as well, to learn about Airbnb and things like that. Yeah, there's a lot of good content out there. You just gotta be around the right people and sort of research on your own. After you hear something from somebody, do your own research also to make sure that it applies to you, and you check with your CPA if you qualify.
I mean, I've definitely been around the block because there's so many good real estate investing strategies. There's short-term rental, mid-term rental. There's like pad split is something that's coming up these days, renting room by room to increase the rent that you can collect. There is house hacking. There's BRRRR. So the thing is, like, I think what resonated with me is that I realized pretty soon after looking into all these, different strategies, is that, like, I'm lazy. And so I've kind of settled closer to the lazier, more passive, definitely not as much as active as you, but I'm okay with that. And maybe in the
Yeah.
future, I can always become more active. But for now, I'm definitely just going down the long-term rental route for now. But I am planning on doing something short-term rental in the near future. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, like just on that, like closing thoughts on that whole thing. Like long term is great for me. We bought which was very favorable. I was okay making $600-$700 net, which nowadays probably is really hard to find, to be honest with you, with the way rates and everything are. I probably wouldn't buy anything that would cash flow 500 or 600 anyways, but that's what I did early on. My new strategy, and I've talked to you about this before, Mike, is I'm looking into residential assisted living. It's a lot of work, but I like that.
Wait, was I the one who showed you that?
You told me about it. You told me about it, but I kind of played it off, and then I kind of looked into it more, and then my TikTok feed started showing more about it, and I'm like, holy crap! Like this is huge.
Yeah, it's huge. So here's the thing. So I actually just filmed a video on Bonus ADU, and Rakesh, just so you know, guys, I told Rakesh about Bonus ADU. I actually filmed a video about it, so go check it out. I told him about it like on a Wednesday or something like that, and by Friday, 2 days later, he's like, Michael, I just got under contract for a Bonus ADU plan. I'm like, what? You don't even know the San Diego market. Like, how did you even in that time go find a partner? So like, this is the type of like investor that Rakesh is, right? Like he's just goes for it. So this residential assisted living thing, right? RAL, or I think it's called RCFE in other states, but it's senior housing. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you're researching. Like
it's essentially, supersizing residential real estate. And so you can buy a single family home and convert them into these assisted living facilities where you can rent out every bed, not bedroom, but bed. You supplement the home with caregivers. They're not nurses or doctors. They're just regular caregivers. There's no license needed or anything. It's just people there taking care of the elderly, helping them get dressed, maybe make their food for them, help them shower, things like that. You create this assisted living facility that has like activities for them. You might take them to their doctor's office appointments. You have different activities for them, etc. And so anyways, long story short, people pay a lot of money per month per bed. In California, places with no frills, depending on the market, for one bed, $6,500, all the way up to like $10,000 per month. So, you have a tent facility, you do the math there, right? You have a ton of expenses, operating expenses like labor and debt service and food. But man, at the end of the day, even with all of that, people are netting like $25,000-$30,000 a month on one property, which you will never see on a long-term rental or an Airbnb. That's kind of what my next venture is.
It's one and done. That's financial freedom right there. One property.
Mm-hmm.
And it's insane. Yeah. I mean, I can say a little bit more. My wife and I did look into this. We actually looked. So you can look at where licenses are given in California. So if you go to the California website, state website, you can look up the different residential assisted living licenses that they gave out, and they actually have addresses for the home. So I actually looked in my market, which is Livermore, California, and I actually found some 6-bedroom facilities, and I looked at their website, and they're charging $7,500 per door for 6 bedrooms. So you can imagine it's almost $40,000, right? Sure, your operating expenses might be half that, so $20,000, but still, you're profiting $20,000 there, right? And so Livermore is a big. It's a place where homes are a little bit bigger, and it's a little bit kind of out of the way a little bit, so it's a little bit more calm and not as crazy as like San Jose. So I think a lot of elderly people like there. But the thing that really got me thinking about residential assisted living is that my wife, her grandparents recently had to go into assisted living. So her grandparent is actually staying at a senior care facility right now, and this was just recently, or when her family was trying to find these assisted living facilities, they were all booked out. There was nowhere for him to go. And so in terms of supply and demand, even in California, the supply and demand is insane. There is literally not enough supply at all. We checked like everywhere, right? So that's a big part of it too. And then, the boomers generation is just getting to that age now. And so you put all those factors together, and it's just a recipe for, opportunity right there.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Crazy stuff.
Definitely. And I mean, I haven't even done a cost segregation yet on that. I haven't gotten a contract one. I know that is supersized.
Yeah. Cost segging on a residential assisted living. That is absolutely
Yeah.
insane. That you just took it to the next level. That's insane. Yeah. You guys don't know what we're talking about. Look into cost segregation and bonus depreciation. The main idea I think you're getting at is that when you start a residential assisted living, you're gonna have to buy a lot of equipment. And for all of that equipment, however much they cost, you can get a deduction for the full value of those components the very first year that you run that business. So yeah, it's very crazy. We'll just leave it at that. Okay, yeah, but anyways, I know you're not really big on social media, but do you have any like social media that you wanted to share in case people wanted to contact you or reach out to you?
No, I don't. I'm a pretty simple guy, but obviously if people do want to get in touch with me, they can reach out to you, and then, you know, we're in touch all the time. So feel free to reach out to me that way. Yeah.
Okay, in that case, I'll plug my Facebook group that I just started. So I started a Facebook group for all the people that did consultations with me. You never did a consultation, but I don't know if you got an invite actually, because you're not in my consultation list. But if you want to be invited, you can. It's just like 30 people who are all Henrys, as I like to call them, high earners but not rich yet. And they all kind of came to this group because they all did consultations with me, and so they asked questions about bonus depreciation, cost segregation, RAL, and I just kind of answer when I can. So if you want to reach out to Rakesh, you can join there. I don't know if Rakesh is going to join or not, but it's a good community. If you guys want to join, just leave a comment down below now. Thank you so much for joining, Rakesh. You know, I was going to do like a 30-minute call, but it's awesome talking to you about this stuff. So it always goes longer than expected.
Yeah.
So
no. Keep up the great content, and you know, keep making good material there. You're doing a great thing, and you know, I love talking about real estate. So if you ever want to invite me back, maybe after I finally get into contract and I have my residential assisted living, I can talk to you guys about that. But yeah, I love talking about this stuff. I could talk about it. So thanks for having me.
All right, Rakesh. Well, thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you and hopefully in another video.
Thanks.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.